This segment covers what you should know regarding emergency payroll and timesheets. It is important to note that the HR office handles attendance and leave questions and interprets applicable statutes and rules pertaining to that subject, while the Comptroller's office is responsible for administration of the payroll function. To that end, both offices work hand in hand together to provide support to employees and supervisors as they try to navigate the requirements for submission and approval of accurate timesheet coding for emergency events. So today you will be hearing from both offices. My name is Kelly Sowell and I am representing the Comptroller's office, and you will soon be hearing from Glenda Campbell from the Central Office HR office. Glenda and I will discuss today what you need to know regarding charge objects, the Federal Fair Labor Standards Act, office closures, extraordinary pay plans, DMS rule suspensions and governor's executive orders that impact attendance and leave issues, and collective bargaining. The People First timesheet has a field for charge objects. If you work on an emergency event, you should enter the specific emergency financial project number, which is a combination of the project ID and work activity, to adequately identify the type of work being done. This number is located in the charge object field. The charge object is a required element when coding hours worked on a timesheet. Hours worked that relate to an emergency event must be coded to that particular emergency project ID work activity. Keep in mind there may be several different charge objects for that event, so determining the correct one for your particular task worked on that emergency is important. This is crucial for proper reporting to management and seeking reimbursement from FHWA and FEMA. See the Office of Work Program and Budget SharePoint site to determine valid project ID charge object combinations, or contact your work program manager with specific questions.
Hi, this is Glenda Campbell from the Central Office HR office. I will be discussing the Fair Labor Standards Act. FLSA is a federal law administered and enforced by the U.S. Department of Labor's Wage and Hour Division that affects most private and public employment. FLSA designation is based on primary duties of a position and/or a salary threshold. The included FLSA designation means the position is eligible for overtime pay at 1.5 times the regular hourly rate for hours worked over 40 during the work week. FDOT included employees have 2 40-hour work weeks in a pay period. The work week begins on Friday and ends on the following Thursday. The excluded FLSA designation means the position is not eligible for overtime pay. Excluded FLSA designation means the position is not eligible for overtime pay. Employees who are in excluded positions are not eligible to receive payment for hours worked over 80 within the pay period. When coding your timesheet, it is important to know your FLSA designation, as that may impact what type of leave you may be eligible for when certain agency activations, Department of Management Services rule provision, or governor executive orders goes into effect. The Department of Management Services, DMS, is the agency responsible for promulgating rules pertaining to state personnel system employees. FDOT does not have the authority to alter these rules. Chapter 60L 34.0031, Florida Administrative Code, specify 2 types of facility closures under emergency condition. The first is by executive order of the governor. Executive orders are typically signed in advance of approaching storms and may be amended throughout the emergency event or even after by the governor. Central Office is notified of county closures by DMS, and then that information is cascaded to those impacted within the agency. It is important for employees to stay in contact with their supervisor and monitor department notification systems such as email or Everbridge. The second type of facility closure is by agency head, who has the authority to do so for up to 2 consecutive calendar days. Then DMS must further approve. Regardless of the mechanism that activates a facility closure, impacted employees will either be notified via email or an important HR announcement, contacted by someone in their chain of command, or informed via Everbridge notification. During office closures, employees identified by their supervisor as either being non-essential, meaning not required to work, or essential, meaning they're necessary for providing essential services during the office closure. Essential employees who are below the bureau chief level should code their timesheet as special comp, code 1006. Bureau chief level or above essential employees should code their timesheet under code 1000. Non-essential employees should code their timesheet as administrative leave, code 0045. Administrative leave is limited to the amount necessary to bring the employee to full pay for the office closure. Questions on timesheet coding should be directed to your local HR office. Employees on pre-approved leave should code the specific leave type that they take, as these employees are not eligible for administrative leave nor special compensatory leave. Please note that there have been times in the past when DMS has suspended or amended a rule or a portion thereof. In these instances, some of the parameters outlined herein will be different. Your HR office will advise if any instances like this occur in the future. Therefore, it is always important to pay close attention to timesheet instructions disseminated for each emergency event. Chapter 60L 32.0071 Florida Administrative Code provides the DMS may approve a fiscally sound agency-wide plan for the payment of extraordinary compensation to excluded selected exempt service SCS employees below the bureau chief level. FDOT has such an approved plan by DMS. Upon determination by the Secretary to activate the agency SCS Extraordinary Payment Plan, a written notice must be immediately provided to the Executive Office of the Governor, the President of the Senate, the Speaker of the House, and the Department of Management Services. The written notice must be provided for each activation or activation extension. When the agency SCS Extraordinary Payment Plan is activated, SCS excluded employees below bureau chief level who are required to work extra hours as a result of the emergency event may be paid for hours worked in excess of the employee's 80-hour pay period and in excess of the employee's regularly scheduled workday hours. The hours worked must be worked within the designated plan activation period. These hours are paid on an hour-for-hour basis at the employee's regular rate of pay. Extraordinary hours are only those hours in connection with the extraordinary event, but do not include hours worked during the employee's regular work schedule, and only those that are in excess of physically worked 80 hours in the pay period. Activation of the plan is contingent upon available funds. Once timesheets are submitted and approved, the payroll office is responsible for auditing timesheets to determine eligibility of extraordinary pay. If approved, these hours are typically paid on a supplemental pay date. In addition to the SEX Extraordinary Pay Plan Rule, Chapter 60L 34.0043 Florida Administrative Leave provides that the DMS may approve a fiscally sound agency-wide plan for the payment on an hour-for-hour basis of unused regular compensatory leave credits in lieu of accruing non-payment of regular compensatory leave credits for extraordinary hours worked for excluded career service employees. FDOT has such an approved plan by DMS. Upon a determination of necessity, the career service regular compensatory pay plan may be activated in writing by the Secretary. Activation period may be extended as directed by the Secretary. DMS must be notified of all activations, including extensions. During the period of plan activation, excluded career service employees who are directed to work extraordinary hours in order to provide mission-critical services in response to an extraordinary event are eligible for payment in lieu of accruing regular compensatory leave credits when the hours worked are more than 80 for the biweekly pay period and more than the employee's regular daily work schedule, and the hours worked are worked in connection with the extraordinary event. Hours worked during an employee regular work schedule are not considered extraordinary. Employees are paid these hours at the straight time hourly rate of pay. Activation of the plan is contingent upon available funding. Once timesheets are submitted and approved, the payroll office is responsible for auditing timesheets to determine eligibility of extraordinary pay. If approved, these hours are typically paid on a supplemental pay date.
Now that Glenda has defined the extraordinary pay plan and its elements, let's discuss the necessary steps to ensure those folks are paid properly. First is to determine who will be deemed an essential employee. An essential employee is defined as one whose presence is necessary to perform or support the state's emergency relief or continuation of operations. Excluded career service or SES employees performing these essential services during office closure are eligible for extraordinary pay when extraordinary payment plans are activated. While SES employees at or above the bureau chief level may be required to perform essential services during the emergency or office closure, they are not eligible for payment under the SES Extraordinary Payment Plan unless certain rules are suspended or amended by DMS. If that occurs, notification from the HR office would be provided. Remember, just because a rule was suspended or amended by DMS for a prior emergency event, it should not be assumed that the same will occur for a future event. Once an extraordinary pay plan is activated, the Disbursement Quality Assurance Payroll Manager in Central Office will send out an email to the transportation support managers in the districts and directors of Central Office requesting a list of those employees deemed eligible for this pay. The list will be used by Central Office Payroll to validate the information reported on the People First timesheets. If an employee who claims extra hours is not on the list, then the Central Office Payroll Office will contact the appropriate director to verify if the employee should be included. During the period of the Extraordinary Payment Plan's activation, career service excluded employees must use hours type 1016 to record eligible hours worked on the emergency event on their timesheet. SES excluded employees must record eligible hours worked on the emergency event under hour type 1017. Eligible full-time and part-time employees can only record hours type 1016 or 1017 once they have exceeded the full-time contract hours for the pay period. Full-time contract hours are 80 hours physically worked and does not include any type of leave. For example, annual, sick, administrative, or special comp do not count as hours physically worked. When determining eligibility for extraordinary pay involving excluded career service and SES employees, regular work hours, callback hours, and essential service hours worked are counted to determine the full-time contract hours for the pay period. All hour types worked must be coded to the charge objects associated with the work performed. Hours type 1016 or 1017 may only be coded when an emergency charge object is applicable and used. To review, extraordinary pay hours type 1016 or 1017 will only be paid at straight time. Central Office Payroll is responsible for the review and approval of extra time and will look to ensure that the requirements we discussed today are met. That includes the employees being identified on the list of essential employees and that hours are coded to the emergency charge object. The employee and supervisor will be notified by email by their local payroll office or Central Office Payroll if time is rejected or if a timesheet is coded incorrectly. Payments will be made in a lump sum or on the first or second supplemental payroll following the pay period the hours are worked and the timesheet is approved. Any inquiries regarding payment status or questions regarding the extra pay approval process should be directed to the Central Office Payroll Office at the email address payroll.accounting@dot.state.fl.us.
There may be instances when notice is received from DMS that a rule is amended or suspended. This may occur before or during an emergency event and can have an impact on timesheet coding and leave eligibility. During such past emergency event, a few DMS rules were suspended or amended. For example, bureau chief level employees became eligible to receive extraordinary pay. Employees who were on pre-approved leave during the office closure were able to use administrative leave for office closure instead of their own annual or sick leave. Eligible employees were able to post special comp or extraordinary pay on the same date. These examples are no longer in effect, and employees should not assume they will be implemented again for future emergency event. Any pertinent changes that do occur in the future will be included in notification emails sent by the HR office regarding timesheet coding for that emergency event. Supervisors and employees should be aware of any additional impact to timesheet coding based on any applicable collective bargaining contract language. Out of the 10 state collective bargaining units covering state personnel system employees, 3 impact FDOT employees, which are the FPD, SE, and the AFSCME. Supervisors should be aware if their employees are in covered positions covered under one of the 3 union contracts, and if any provisions of these contracts have any impact on the employee's timesheet during an emergency event. It is important that supervisors and employees make themselves aware of all the various regulations that may impact the employees before, during, and after an emergency event. FDOT does not regulate nor have the authority to alter any requirements imposed by statute, rules, executive order, or otherwise. The Finance and Administrative Office, especially the Human Resource and Comptroller's Office, work very closely together to provide information as quickly as possible during these events. Please be assured we want you to get the information you need as soon as possible.
That concludes our segment regarding emergency payroll and timesheet issues. Glenda Campbell and myself can be reached at our contact information on the screen, as well as the payroll accounting email address given earlier. We'll now open the mics to see if there are any available questions.